All right, kids. There was this experiment from 2003 called exposure to violent media, which I've talked about before, but evidently, I missed an important detail. See, exposure to violent media suggests that songs with violent lyrics increase aggression-related thoughts and emotions, and this effect is directly related to the violence in the lyrics. Even the humorous violent songs increase aggressive thoughts, they said. The thing about that is, nobody got killed in this study. None of the 500 college students who participated murdered anyone after, listening to Shoot 'Em Up by Cypress Hill or Jerk Off by Tool. And if somebody says, well, if guns and weapons were available, they might be missing the point. So look, those researchers aren't saying that rap music, for example, is the cause of violence in Black communities in particular. It's how people perceive their work and work like theirs. Well, we need to talk about how music impacts and influences individuals. Again, because I apparently don't know how this works.
I got nipples on my titties, big as the end of my thumb. I got something between my legs that'll make a dead man come home. Why don't you come and shave them dry?
Why are you surprised? Were you not aware of the fact that they could have used parental advisory stickers 100 years ago? The song I just played is Shave 'Em Dry by Lucille Bogan. A cleaner version was originally recorded and written by Ma Rainey, while James Boodle It Wiggins recorded his own version later. The song was considered dirty blues, its own subgenre of music. Also, this current paragraph that I'm saying contains two phrases that are euphemisms for sex. Which two? Anyways, based on what I'm told, Shave 'Em Dry must have led to so many people making it. Them's the rules. This took place before the welfare state incentivized single parenthood or whatever. And if this is all about Black culture, then
Jonesy stopped and spoke to Girlie, just as old friends often do. And he said, I'm married, but that but, my dear, means you. I love my wife, but oh, you kid.
That's a song about cheating. Men and women stepping out on each other. Infidelity must have skyrocketed after this joint sheet music sold more than 100,000 copies. Am I doing it right or? And I know the message to "Oh you kid" is more subtle by today's standards, but back in the day, a phrase like "Oh you kid" was like saying WAP. And by the way, imagine if Shave 'Em Dry was a rap song created by Cardi B. Same lyrics and everything. Oh my gosh. But hey, neither of these songs must have affected one group in particular at all. Thank you to Private Internet Access for sponsoring this video. Have you ever been in a public restroom and realized that not only can people see you in your stall, but they're actively looking to see what you're mixing up in there? And I'm not talking about the ones and twos. That's what it's like to get on the internet without protection. Well, a virtual private network like PIA fills in those gaps so that creeps can't see what you're doing. A VPN hides your IP address and keeps your internet connection safe. I wanted to watch Shawshank Redemption the other day. I hoped it would be available on Netflix, but it wasn't in America. However, it is in the Netherlands, but I didn't have to go all the way to Europe to watch the Ohio State Reformatory or drive an hour and a half to Mansfield to look at this prison with toilets that are kind of holding up in there. Private internet access is available for all platforms and protects an unlimited amount of devices at the same time. Stream away. So when you're watching videos like mine, junior samples won't even know you're there. It'll be like lifting your feet up when you're sitting on the toilet. Look, if you give people space, they will peek. Don't accidentally, or intentionally really, expose yourself. Let PIA flush the dark web while you take care of business. Make sure you wash your hands. Before using my link, piavpn.com/allright to get an 83% discount on private internet access. That's just $2.03 a month. And you also get 4 extra months completely free. That's piavpn.com/allright.
So tired of hearing that Black crime is caused by Black culture. For some reason, rap music doesn't make white people steal cars and shoot people. It only works on black people, sarcastically.
Nick Fuentes made a great point himself until racism pulls on these groypers, tug these jerks in a circle. He would go on to say, just another in a long list of excuses. Leftists blame it on racism and poverty. Conservatives blame it on culture and godlessness. Blacks create the same culture from LA to Baltimore, from Haiti to London, from Sudan to South Africa. From prehistory to now, it's race. And I shouldn't even need to address the idea that black people from America to the Caribbean and West Indies to Europe and Africa have or share the same culture. They don't. Furthermore, I want to point out that Middle America landed on culture as being the problem with black communities. Had they been able to prove black pathology through biology or genetics or it being hereditary, they would have gone with that. They can't, but they're trying, I guess. In response to Fuentes' tweets, there's this post that says, black crime being driven by socioeconomics is false. Blacks commit more crimes at all income levels, featuring this chart from Raz Chetty's data, percentage of incarcerated black and white men versus their parents' income percentile. And with this country's history of black codes and the war on drugs, if you think prison and jail sentences equal crimes committed, then I don't know what to tell you. But we'll get back to this later. Also, Andrew Tate said, as a what has to be the hardest R in the history of the world, I confirm this to be true. If I listen to the wrong song, I end up human trafficking, and this walking assault on women waiting to happen is kind of making my point. What happens when you hear a theme song, for instance? Does it change your mind or mood to what the music is about? How is that high school basketball team supposed to get buckets when the Home Depot theme is playing? They should be building something, right? At least putting up bricks. Can I get some? I mean, there's no lyrics to that song. However, amateur and professional athletes alike warm up to drill rap all the time to pump themselves up, yet nobody gets murdered. What's the deal? Is that even possible? Could it be due to half of that basketball team being European American? In the early 90s, it was believed that around 80% of the hip hop audience was white. In debunking that alternative fact, this article from Atlanta Black Star states that in 2004, MediaMark Research Incorporated estimated that closer to 60% of rap music consumers were white. Of the approximately 64 million Americans between the ages of 15 and 30, about 73% of them were white. Therefore, white people were underrepresented among the rap audience, and black and brown people were overrepresented. Furthermore, the history of data collection should make you wonder how, in 1991, when there were no devices tracking race in record sales, did they come up with that number of 80%? And why were they allowed to release it as fact? Media corporations needed a marketing tool to justify ad revenue for top 40 stations. That's it. Black and urban stations got less money. Advertising priorities coded for the white man's disposable income. With that said, according to USC, of the top executives at 70 leading music companies, there were only 3 black people and 2 women of color serving as top executives. Meaning, radio stations, live music and concerts, along with the music industry in general, are not only overwhelmingly white, but are primarily the reason why we hear sex, murder, and mayhem romance for the street in this country that made true crime its own genre and made celebrities out of serial killers, murderers, gangsters, and outlaws. Luigi Mangione proved that we love criminals again.
What inspired you to make that song in that video? I was reading New York Post when I was doing the movie Juice, and it was this story. It started out to be this big story about this family who died because they didn't have heat and they left the gas on. Everybody died except for this girl. She moved in with her cousins, second cousins. She started dating her second cousin. He got her pregnant. Nobody noticed she was pregnant. I was like, dang. And it was over a week. But the story kept getting smaller, smaller, and smaller. And I was like, this is like very important, more important than Juice. To me, it was a bigger story than Juice.
How you feel about Tupac on or off the record lets me know what rap music means to you. If Machiavelli is Brenda's Got a Baby, Keep Your Head Up, and Dear Mama, and not I Get Around, Hit 'Em Up, or Hail Mary, and vice versa, then you have a singular view of his verses. Tupac, just like rap music in general, was and is more than just one thing. It seems like millions deem Tupac to be a peaceful prophet who deserves to have college scholarships named in his honor. To others, he's a problematic poet who didn't have a rap sheet until after he became famous. There should be many more in the middle, but all of these people were his audience at some point. Perception and perspective are at play. And going back to the study I mentioned earlier right quick, it investigated precursors to aggression rather than aggressive behavior itself. And the authors admit more research is needed to identify the short-term and long-term effects of violent song lyrics. Even with that, again, I don't know how this works. Do you listen to rap prior to violent criming somebody? Is it being played during, or is it like a dam breaking and bursting open due to an overflow of hip hop in your head and in your heart? Was the person who shot and killed Tupac inspired by his music?
The beef that didn't make it through was Pac and Big.
Yeah.
I wasn't really prepared for that, like somebody actually dying, and they didn't really die because of that beef. They died because of extenuating circumstance.
That was rapper and actor Ice-T. Newsweek quoted him from the early 90s as saying, "People always ask me, how do you feel about dancing for the white people? You dance for them and they cheer. And then they walk out of here and they just talk about N-words. At this point, man, I can't really care." And you may be saying to yourself, yeah, they want our culture, not our people. Plus, no matter what, we'll always be N-words to them. Or, wait, is Ice-T allowed to use the N-word? Okay. Before the gangster rap era, we have to pretend like rap was one thing done one way. Run DMC, whose song Hit 'Em Hard was used in the study that I've been talking about and considered it violent, by the way, wasn't Eric B. and Rakim. Curtis Blow wasn't Kool Moe Dee, and the Cold Crush wasn't the Sugar Hill Gang. And you know what? Someone out there is longing to go back to this.
Hip hop, you know how we do it. We get out on the block, start break dancing. We hanging out with our friends, shaking hands. We do the dance. Go to the ball and shoot some hoop.
Okay.
Doop, doop, doo, 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 doo.
What was the homicide rate when hip hop sounded like that? And what were the conditions which led to the creation of rap? Or did rap create those conditions? I still don't know how this hip hop to homicide thing works. And I've talked about it in 5 previous videos. Peep the playlist. Either way, none of this is new. The hip hop amplifies, exasperates, fuels homicide narrative has been a thing for almost 4 decades now. Yet, conservatives were saying the same things about other genres of music that black people created.
We came along, the whole thing changed. All of a sudden, we became a no-no. What is this? This is devil music. It wasn't anything that we were doing so wrong. It was just that people were so slow
You were black.
to accept change.
You was black.
Tell him again. Will you tell him, man, again?
You was black, and they didn't want that black image over the kids. You was a hero.
Well, see, but
and your kids was looking up to you, and they didn't want their kids looking
What
up
kids?
at
What kids?
They didn't want the white kids looking up at this big old greasy black guy
Preacher.
out of Georgia,
Tell 'em about
out of Mississippi, or out of Chicago. They want their kids to see a little smooth white boy looking pretty and on duty and looking Rudy, and so here's a black guy out there singing and screaming and beaming and steaming. They said, no, no, no.
Help me out, please. What is it called when somebody proves the opposite of the point they were trying to make? Or maybe not even a complete contradiction, just, for example, when a man stares at another man's body and mannerisms in order to question what kind of sex they have and with who before trying to out them as gay? Or how about people who want to ban trans folks from certain restrooms because they think trans communities are going to attack there, but it's trans people who are assaulted there? Or groomer claims coming from people that are the actual PDF files. There's a word or phrase for this, but I don't know what it is. Not that one definition or description fits all those things, but they say that when you point the finger, 4 are pointed back at you. Well, they also say that the thumb isn't a finger, plus it's kind of pointing somewhere else, and they must not be pointing their fingers right. But to be fair, I have gotten this whole episode wrong up until this point. Rap does cause violent crime.
Looking out the window, and I said, "You're not gonna kill me, you son of a bitch," and I shot.
In his own words and in riveting detail,
It wasn't just my life I was worried about, no.
admitted killer Michael Dunn recreates for the jury the moments that led to the shooting death of 17-year-old Jordan Davis.
Michael Dunn, 47 years old, was convicted of first-degree murder in the death of 17-year-old Jordan Davis and 3 counts of attempted second-degree murder for shooting at the other teens in the car with Davis. Dunn argued that he thought he saw the barrel of a gun inside the car and was in fear for his life when he shot up the SUV. The prosecution said that the threat Dunn, a white man, perceived from the group of black teens was only in his imagination. Dunn fired 10 shots in 3 short bursts, striking Davis 3 times. The teens were unarmed.
Dunn's fiancée testified the 47-year-old software developer had this reaction.
And what did the defendant say? Oh, I hate that thug music.
Rauer went inside the store to buy a bottle of wine. Seconds later, gunshots.
Oh my God, somebody's shooting. Somebody's shooting out their car.
Dunn claimed that he didn't call it thug music. He referred to it as rap crap or something like that. Additionally, police in Peoria, Arizona are investigating after a 17-year-old teenager was stabbed to death. The man accused told police he felt threatened because the teen had been listening to rap music. Adams stated that rap music made him feel unsafe because in the past, he has been attacked by people, blacks, Hispanics, and Native American, who listen to rap music. Adams further stated people who listen to rap music are a threat to him and the community, according to police reports. Adams had just been released from state prison 2 days prior to the murder, according to the Arizona Department of Corrections. Perhaps rap music does cause violence, just not in the way some hoped it would or did. And when reading about the effects of violence in mass media, I came across this article which reported that 1 of 2 boys, both 15 years old at the time, accused of plotting to kill students and teachers, fantasized about being a natural-born killer, as in the movie made in 1994. The BBC said the prosecution had already alleged the boys considered Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, who carried out the shooting at Columbine High School, to be their heroes and wanted to emulate their actions. So, who or what inspired the Columbine killers? And the plot of Natural Born Killers. Not to be dismissive, although movies, TV, comic books, and video games have also been cited as the cause of violent crime as well. But rap music getting the brunt of this is simply anti-blackness, plain and simple. And it distracts from what actually correlates with violent crime.
The thing is, on this chart, if there was a correlation between the number of crimes that people commit and their skin color, but it discounted income, then this R number would be negligible. It would be super close to 0. That's not the case. And according to the data, people in poverty are much more likely to commit crime, no matter what their skin color is. Some groups make slightly less money compared to the number of crimes they commit, and some groups make slightly more, but the differences are negligible. None of these groups commit more or less crime based on the dollar amount that they earn than any other group, at least not enough to throw off this correlation.
Distractions from what drives homicide in America: access to firearms, a lack of access to education, mental health resources, housing, upward mobility, available blue-collar labor, and so on. And I'm not saying rap isn't a problem, but it's not the problem. Fixing all of the issues I just cataloged wouldn't get rid of rap, and honestly, hip-hop is full of fakes who want to sell true crime and murder mystery featuring snitching on themselves without saying spoiler alert first, because these United States have proven to love that. And they would know that if they respected rap as an art form and rappers as artists.
And somebody please correct me, call me out if this is a reach myself. But I feel like the inability to give credit to black artists that have really sophisticated and complicated wordplay and metaphor and all that stems from the inability to acknowledge black intelligence. One of my favorite artists right now is JID or JID. And if you listen to a single song of his and read the lyrics, you are dumbfounded at his ability to connect things and create these metaphors and these triple and quadruple entendres. Like, you think he did that by accident?
Before I go, I need to call back to some songs I mentioned earlier. Per Slate, the most prominent opponent of "Oh You Kid," written by white men, was an evangelical pastor named Billy Sunday, who claimed, in times past, popular plays and their songs used to glorify the marriage relation. Now we hear such songs in the theater as "My Wife Has Gone to the Country, Hooray Hooray," and "I Love My Wife, But Oh You Kid." These are things of the devil, things driving audiences to sin and hell. So there's that. Yet, had some of these people listened to Shave 'Em Dry, they probably wouldn't need to boodle it with somebody else. We're gonna be all right.